very soon, when I studied medicine in early 18th, I had a strong belief that the adult disease have their origins in fetal life. That's why that I later, in 19th, finally decided to embrace the fetal medicine or prenatal medicine. Fetal medicine is the branch of medicine science that is dedicated to care of the intrauterine part of human life, and is committed to improve the life cells from its very beginning. Let me ask you 3 questions. What is the only thing that for certain will happen to you one day? That. Yes, that. Well, I was thinking about taxes too, but forget taxes for now. Okay. We can be sure that in 100 years, none of us will be here and alive. And if we concept life as we conceive life today. Let me ask you a second question. What are your strongest fears about death? If I'm not wrong, you are thinking about how and when it will occur. Well, let me ask you the third question. What are your deepest desire about death? I venture to assert that you desire a sudden and quick death, and the later it happens, the better. Well, so my talk in the next minutes will be about these fears and these desires. And how are you going to die? And what can you do to avoid it, or at least to make it come as later as possible? The title of my talk begins with the acronyms CVD. CVD means cardiovascular disease. This is the kind of disease that you are very familiar. Why are they so familiar? They are the disease of heart and vessels that cause heart attack and strokes and coronary heart disease. Why are those so familiar? Cardiovascular disease are the cause of almost 50% of deaths in our country. And in 2009, 33,000 Portuguese died from a cardiovascular disease, coronary attack, or an heart disease. That means that for each talk today in TED, a Portuguese died with a heart attack or a stroke. We are here since 9 o'clock in the morning, and during this pleasant day, about 30 Portuguese died with a heart attack or a stroke. And no one will talk about them at 8 o'clock news. Well, in Union Europe, estimate that cardiovascular disease costs about $169 billion, and almost of this is spent in hospital care. There's way dead and taxes correlated. So, for now, and half of you know that are going to die of a cardiovascular disease. But which of you? We know, it's common knowledge, that besides smoking, diabetes and hypertension are the major risk factors for cardiovascular disease. And we know also that these risk factors are more frequent among obese and sedentary population. We know now a lot more than ever before about cardiovascular disease, and we improved treatments of cardiovascular disease. But paradoxically, cardiovascular disease continues to increase all over the world, like an epidemic fashion. And despite we know the risk of cardiovascular disease, the major factors risk, some of us have experienced a history of a family member or a neighbor or a colleague that is not fit, that ran 3 times a week, went to the gym, drink coffee without sugar. But one day, you have the notice, the new, suddenly he's in the hospital with an heart attack. So something is missing here. Don't you think so? Don't you feel it? Why? David Barker felt it too. David Barker was a physician, a consultant physician at Southampton Medical School, England, and in 18th he carried out an epidemiological study that it was a milestone in this field. David Barker's group have an examination of the mortality, of cardiovascular mortality during the 80s among 16,000 middle-aged women and men that were in Hertfordshire between 1911 and 1930, of whom good records of birth, size, and weight had been kept. And Barker could demonstrate that there was a correlation between. Oh, sorry. There was a correlation between death rates from coronary disease and birth weight. Actually, death rates from coronary disease fell twofold between those in lower and upper limits of the birth weight distribution. After this study, others confirming this kind of association. And there are other studies that were performed with the intention to finding the mechanisms behind this kind of association. And we know that the potential to grow of a fetus is a genetic, is a genetic feature. But this potential is limited by the utero environment, especially nutrients and oxygen. The demands in nutrients and oxygen is determined by genoma, but supplied via placenta. And the placenta supply is dependent of the mother composition, the mother diet intake and activity, the blood flow from the uterus to the placenta, and the capacity of transfer of this placenta. The undernourished fetus develop adaptable mechanism in order to survive during undernutrition. And one of those major and most important mechanisms are vascular change. In fact, the fetus is able to redistribute the blood flow, and while it slowing the growth, it protects the tissues that are more important for him to survive, especially the brain. And because the ratio of size in human fetus is larger, is higher than in other mammals. There's distribution of blood to spare the brain. It has two main consequences. It reduces the blood flow in the abdomen and to the abdominal organs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and it reduces the gain of abdominal fat and muscle mass. After this vascular change, happened other metabolic and endocrine change in an undernourished fetus. We know that during the early development, when the cells are in a rapid division, they are plastic. The system is plastic. This means that it can adapt to the environment. But after this period, we observe a loss of plasticity, and the system becomes fixed function permanently. So here we can a conflict foreseen to arise, where after birth the nutrition become normal or even excessive, and the fetus and newborn that have their function fixed to scarcity, when faced to plentiful nutrients, it becomes discompensate and balance. And after years of this decompensate and imbalance, disease appears. This hypothesis of fetal origins for cardiovascular disease open new horizons to fetal medicine and a whole new role to fetal medicine in public health. Fetal medicine has now good tools to detect in early gestation the fetus that could be restricted in their growth during the gestation. And these could improve their well-being in uterus and well-being at birth and later on in their lives. What can we really do in 2011 about this issue? Well, I just can't speak about my experience. And in a Fetus Vitae clinic, we screen all the women between 11 and 30 weeks. And how do we do it? In the same visit, we do a scan where we measure the fetus to accurately the date of gestation. And in the same scan, we measure the uterine flow, the uterine arteries flow of the mother. And we have a sample of the blood of the mother in order to determine some proteins that can be able to demonstrate the capabilities of that placenta to transfer nutrients. And we collect the story of the mother. And we measure the blood pressure of the blood pressure of the mother. All of these in one visit to our clinic.
Marina, you're 3 minutes beyond time. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's me saying. After we go for a follow-up of those who are screen positive, and we continue monitoring their follow-up, their growth. And we can, in 1,380 pregnancies, we could detect 100% of those who severe and moderate restricted growth. So let me ask you, let me return to your last question we posed early on. Which of you are going to die with cardiovascular disease? Ask your mom your birth weight. And if it is birth weight, this is lower, eat less, and move more. The fetus, we are from the beginning sustainable because we, from the beginning, redesign ourselves in order to survive to scarcity. And we are spiritual because we always protect the brain. We privilege the brain. And we are social because we sacrifice all to reach the social part of our lives out here. And we are, from the beginning, we are super. Thank you.